I think this is ready. I think it's ready here. I think it's recording on here.
So you said hold it.
I think it's recording on here. It's recording the speaker on here. It's recording right now. Yeah. I'm gonna go with the next one on this.
Go ahead. It's okay. What do you, all right, Hamzah. Bismillah. Are the sisters ready? Is there any, the sisters over there? Oh, that's no problem. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As we continue in this tremendous blessed treatise by the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah رحمة واسعة وجزاه الله عنا وعن المسلمين وعن السنة خير الجزاء. As we continue, and we've talked about the principles that's incumbent upon every Muslim to have deep-rooted and well-grounded in his heart, as this is the groundwork that one lays down when he wants to build his genetics as a Muslim and a Salafi, and a person from Ahl Sunnah. That he starts with these three principles, or these principles that's entitled the three principles, in which we've been discussing for the past month. And we stopped at the point where it says after, when the great Imam, where he said, يَجِبُ عَلَيْنَا تَعَلُّمُ أَرْبَعِ مَسَائِلِ الْأُولَى الْعِلْمِ. Firstly, knowledge. What do we say? What is the meaning of knowledge? We said that what the Shaykh mentioned in his treatise, what did he say? He said, مَعْرِفَةُ اللَّهِ وَمَعْرِفَةُ نَبِيهِ وَمَعْرِفَةُ دِينِ الْإِسْلَامِ بِالْأَدِلَّةِ. To have knowledge of Allah and knowledge of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we explained that, right, everyone? And also knowledge of the religion of Al-Islam with evidences and proofs. And then, so in regards to these three principles, or these three matters, that he said it was all part of what, everyone? It was part of knowledge. That this is the foundation and the basis. Once a Muslim deep roots himself, he well grounds himself in these matters, where he cleanses his belief and his creed and his conviction, what he believes. Once he cleanses that, and he has that set right, then you will find the next stage, if a Muslim truly has Iman and he has faith, and likewise he has learned the proper belief system, with the proper belief in which the Prophet ﷺ taught the Sahaba, the proper creed, the proper belief. You've attained knowledge of Allah, and you've attained the knowledge of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and likewise the religion of Al-Islam, in light of what we mentioned from those details that has preceded and what was mentioned in the last lesson. Once a person has established that, has all those things set right, because that is the origin, the a'mal al-qulub, the amal al-qalb, or the action of the heart. And the heart does have actions, which we'll also discuss bi'idhnillah jalla wa azz. But we know as Ahl Sunnah that Shu'ab al-Iman is thalatha, or the parts or the branches of faith are how many, everyone? 3. Faith that is done or is connected to as far as the body. Number 1, it starts with the heart. That faith starts with the qalb, as we know, and then what? Then the tongue and the limbs. When we say limbs, meaning the actions. That is all faith. One does not exist without the other. Faith comprises of, as far as in regards to what the person, or how he applies it in regards to his body, is all connected with his heart, it's connected with his tongue, and is connected with his body parts. And we said body parts or limbs. What we mean by that is actions and application. As we know, faith and what is connected with the heart, like we talked about last lesson, is أعظم شعب الإيمان. Is the most tremendous of the branches of faith, which is connected with the rectification of that morsel of flesh that is in our chest, which the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned and said that إن في الجسد مضغة فإذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. He said, there's a morsel of flesh in one's chest that if it becomes upright, then everything else in the body will be upright. Meaning, your statements will be upright and your actions will be upright. That if it becomes upright and it becomes sound, then everything else will be sound. And if it's corrupt, then one's statements and his actions will be corrupt. And he said that morsel of flesh is the heart. So, when the great Imam Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah, when he started this treatise by saying what knowledge is, you notice that he connected knowledge with what, everyone? Knowledge of what is in regards to the rectification of the heart first, by the heart, attaining knowledge of Allah, number one, and knowledge of the Prophet Muhammad, and knowledge of the religion of Al-Islam with evidences and proofs. So once a person has rectified that, then it will bear the fruits. What will come later, which is what everyone, if you notice in your books, as a result of the correct belief and the sound belief in one's heart, what will come? The actions, al-amal. As al-amal is part of faith likewise. Al-amal is faith and is part of faith. وَهُوَ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ. It is from faith, excuse me. Not a part of faith, excuse me everyone. It is from faith. Al-amal min al-iman. One has to realize that actions is from faith. As you'll find that the great Imam Al-Hasan al-Basri used to say in this tremendous statement, he said, ليس الإيمان بالتحلي والتمني ولكن ما وقر في القلب وصدقه الأعمال. The great Imam Al-Hasan al-Basri, he mentioned this tremendous athar where he said Iman is not بالتحلي والتمني. It's not بالتحلي والتمني. He says it's not just by decoration, of course, and that's it. And he said tamanni. What is tamanni? Tamanni meaning that one day I hope to get myself together, but I'm not doing what's correct now. I'm not doing anything correct now in my actions, in my implementation of the religion. One day I hope to get myself maybe together one day. He said that's not Iman. He said Iman is ma waqara fil qalb wa saddaqahu al-a'mal. He says Iman is what settles in the heart first. He says, and the actions confirm it. The actions confirm it. So what is truly in your heart, ya ma'ashal ikhwa wal akhawat, what is truly in your heart will manifest itself in the actions. It will manifest itself in the actions, whereas you will find that if a person truly has faith, then you will find him hasting towards implementing the religion of Al-Islam to the best of his ability in all those actions, firstly, which are his duties, such as praying all the salawat al-khams, the 5 prayers on time, and the obligations and the duties that are performed, some of fast in Ramadan, performing all the salawat if he's able, and in the masjid as much as he's able, of course, and also likewise all the different other duties that Allah has obliged upon all of us. If you truly believe, then the person will never say, for example, if he comes up, or excuse me, when he neglects his duties, he'll say, faith is here. You will never find a person who has correct belief say that. That I don't have to do any actions. I don't have to perform my salah on time. I don't have to perform or do anything because faith is in my heart. And you'll find that this is a disease that has plagued the Muslims, especially amongst the common folk who have been plagued with this type of ideology, which is an ideology with the deviant sect called the Murji'ah, which we'll speak about inshallah. As the Murji'ah are deviant sect from the past that they used to say that actions is not from faith. They'll say that actions is not from faith. That's a deviant sect called the Murji'ah. Even though you'll find that the Muslims, or some of the Muslims, even though they don't call themselves that name, the Murji'ah, however, they're applying their ideology when they say, I don't have to do anything because faith is in my heart. That is, like we said, they're saying that actions is not from faith. I don't have to do it. Rather, faith merely suffices by it just being what? Where in the heart, and that's it. And I do not have to do anything that proves what is in my chest, which is bringing forth the actions. Like we said, you'll find that a lot of the Muslims are plagued with this disease where they say faith is here. Faith is here. Faith is in my chest. Faith is here. I don't have to grow my beard. Faith is here. I don't have to wear my pants above my ankles. Faith is here. A woman will say, I don't have to cover. Faith is here. I don't have to avoid certain actions that that will bring the curse of Allah upon me by shaping up my eyebrows or doing all these other things. I don't have to do that because faith is here. I don't have to pray my prayers on time because faith is here. All that is from the ideologies of what they call the Murji'ah. The Murji'ah, like we said, they remove actions from faith. They say actions are not part of faith. Some of them, and we'll talk about the different sects who deviated from that particular sect, because there's not just one particular statement, but the main thing just to believe, or just will suffice by saying the deviant sect called the Murji'ah, they remove actions from faith. They remove actions from faith. So one to say this, like we said, is incorrect. Also, you will find that some of the Salaf used to say a tremendous statement where they said, فَإِذَا, like meaning he's talking about faith and how important it is. He says, إِذَا حَلَّتَ الْهِدَايَةِ فِي الْقَلْبِ نَشِطَتْ فِي الْعِبَادَةِ الْأَعْضَاءُ. You'll find that from the tremendous statements of the Salaf, where they used to say in the past, that if guidance of Allah settles and penetrates your heart, and Iman truly penetrates your heart, listen to what the statement where he says, نَشِطَتْ فِي الْعِبَادَةِ الْأَعْضَاءُ. He said that the limbs of the body will truly become active in performing righteous actions. He says that faith and the guidance has truly penetrated one's heart. He said that the limbs of the body, meaning the actions that one performs, will become active and diligent in performing those righteous actions. So, as Ahlul Sunnah, just to sum up, al-amal, actions, is from faith. Actions is from faith. Do not separate it. Actions is from faith. Likewise, what is made with the tongue, and what is made with the tongue, and also that which is performed in the actions of the individual. So like we said, if one's beliefs is sound, then what everyone, then his actions will be upright, as the Prophet As-Sadiq al-Masduq alayhi salatu wassalam, that he mentioned in that authentic hadith alayhi salatu wassalam. So al-amal, as we talked about, will be from those matters in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold us accountable on the day of resurrection. Al-amal, we will be questioned and asked about our knowledge that we acquired, the knowledge that we acquired, and whether or not we implemented that knowledge. Firstly, as we know on the day of resurrection, our belief will be questioned. Our belief in what we had in our hearts and in our chests, all of that will be held accountable. The type of belief that we had and the type of diligence we had in rectification of the heart will be looked at. And it will be examined on the day of resurrection, the type of belief we had, and whether or not did we put forth our utmost effort in preserving that morsel of flesh, which is the heart. That will be asked, and it will be held accountable on the day of resurrection, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says upon the tongue of Ibrahim, where he said, Tabaraka wa ta'ala, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهِ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. Allah Tabaraka wa ta'ala says upon the tongue of Ibrahim, he says, when he said with Ibrahim, alayhi salam, Ibrahim that he mentioned is said, and of course we know the verse in the Quran where it says, the day where children and wealth will not avail anyone. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ. The day in which one's wealth and his children will not avail him or benefit him, except the one who comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sound heart. Except the one who comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sound heart. Listen to what Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah said about this particular ayah. It's tremendous. He said, the sound heart is that which is salimu min al-aqa'id al-fasida wa irad wa ma yatba'u dhalik. Or wa iradatu dhalik. He says, al-qalb alladhi yakun saliman min al-aqa'id al-fasida. That's the first thing he said. He said the first thing of what the meaning of sound heart, he says the heart that has been saved and cleansed of all corrupt beliefs, of all corrupt ideologies and beliefs. The sound heart is the one that is saved and free from all corrupt ideologies and beliefs. So that's part of preserving one's heart. Preserving it from it believing or adopting some type of ideology will attain it, whether it be from all the different types of religions that has opposes al-Islam, and belief systems and methodologies, corrupt beliefs, belief that Allah is everywhere, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in everything, or democracy is the best for humanity and rectifying humanity. All those things you have to protect your heart from embracing. Marxism, Buddhism, yoga, believing that the stars, or believing in astrology, that I'm a Taurus or I'm a Leo. All these are the things that's going to taint your belief system and taint your heart, in which Allah will examine on the day of resurrection. Belief in bad luck, belief that democracy, or belief in Marxism, or belief in Shuyu'iyya, or belief in communism, all those type of ideologies and beliefs, you have to work diligently in protecting your heart from believing it or adopting it or thinking that it's good for the creation. For if a person doesn't do that, then he has not protected his heart from those corrupt, evil ideologies that Shaykh al-Islam mentions. Rather, he will come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of resurrection with a heart that's been tainted, which is dangerous. So the first thing that all of us puts forth in protecting is our heart. And the passageway to what goes to your heart is your eyes and your ears. To what you lend your ear to and what you lend your eyes to is the passageway of what gives nutrients to the heart, or whether or not it's evil, or whether or not it's corrupt, or whether or not it's beneficial, or what have you. The passageway to what the heart that it relies on, as far as to give it nutrients, of course, because we know nutrients to the heart is beneficial knowledge, and what we hear as far as what knowledge, of course, that's the basis. And that to lend your heart to a person who will corrupt your belief will end up, like we said, corrupting that morsel of flesh, which is in the chest, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will examine on the day of resurrection. So listen what Shaykh al-Islam mentions. It says the meaning of a sound heart. He says that heart which is sound from al-aqaid al-fasida. He says, and also likewise what one intends of evil and what follows that. So all of that is the meaning of coming to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sound heart and saving the heart from that, from those evil type of wicked beliefs and ideologies and corrupt ways. That is coming to Allah ta'ala on with a sound heart. And the great Imam Rabi' ibn Hadi al-Madkhali ibn Umair al-Madkhali hafidhullah wa ra'ah, the great Imam Hamil al-Liwal Jarh al-Ta'dil Raghma Unuf al-Hizbiyin, as al-Hamil al-Liwal Jarh al-Ta'dil bil-Haq, the great Imam who is still alive, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to preserve him, the great Imam Rabi' Raghma Unuf al-Hizbiyin, that he said about this ayah, the one who comes to Allah in a sound heart, he says coming to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sound heart is freeing your heart from polytheism, corrupt beliefs, wicked ideologies, wicked convictions, freeing your heart from polytheism and idolatry. And he also said likewise, listen to this, he said also likewise, hizbiyah, partisanship, racism, all the different beliefs of bid'ah, of innovations, because we know innovations likewise affects and taints the heart. Bid'ah and innovations and the corrupt beliefs of what those deviant sects believe from the Muslims. All of that likewise is from protecting the heart and preserving it so you can meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sound heart. From all those different types of beliefs, like we said, it's incumbent upon the Muslim to make sure that he protects this morsel of flesh in his chest. We also ask the sisters, if you can, as it was brought to my attention that sometimes some of our sisters bring meals to the class, or they bring plates. We don't mind some of our sisters bringing snacks in, or something like some cashews or some nuts or things of that nature, or a little light coffee. There's nothing wrong with that. But to bring heavy trays and meals to the class, that will really divert the people from truly benefiting, until their attention will be concentrating on the food, because we know that is from the ways in which the Prophet ﷺ canceled even your salat. You don't have to even pray it on time if a person has. You don't have to pray at the time when the people are praying, He can even sit and eat if he's hungry, and the people are praying, and the people are in the house, and the food is prepared and it's there. The Prophet ﷺ said put forth eating the food first, of course, over the what? Over the prayer. In that particular instance, if a person feels that the food is going to divert his attention and take his khushu' away from the salat. So if that's the case with the salat, then what about us taking knowledge? So we ask the sisters kindly, if they bring some food and they think they're really hungry and they need to stop to eat, then we ask them kindly and generously to step outside maybe and eat in their cars or what have you. But those big meals, those big meals, just step out in the car or step somewhere else to eat those meals if they're truly hungry. But in the masjid, we ask them kindly, eat something light, like maybe a cup of coffee, some water, or some cashews and some nuts and things of that nature. There's nothing wrong with that if one feels that he's going to get hungry. But if that's not the case, and you have to bring some big meals where one is truly hungry, then we ask them kindly to step out in the car to eat and not to do that in the masjid. Because like we said, it will take away the attention of the people and they won't be able to truly benefit. So we said in regards to what Shaykh al-Islam mentioned, and likewise the great Imam Rabi', that the meaning of the ayah, to the one who comes to Allah with a sound heart, is the one that frees his heart from all these wicked beliefs. All these beliefs that we gave numerous examples of. And that we haven't mentioned all of them, but we gave some examples in order to clarify what we're speaking about, so we know how to apply it. So the one who comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a sound heart keeps his heart protected from all these different wicked beliefs that will taint his heart. Then Allah wa ta'ala also likewise on the day of resurrection will examine our actions. So that's the reason why we keep mentioning faith, the importance of it, and the importance of preserving your heart, and also likewise the importance of performing an abundance of righteous actions. As righteous actions also will be what? Looked at on the day of resurrection. As we know, on the day of resurrection, our survival of a lot of different obstacles and horrors that we'll see, frightening horrors that will make the make the heart drop to go through the throat. As Allah Ta'ala talks about, he says in his book, he says in which he says Yawm Allah is the ayah which is Surah Al-Hadid, which says إذ الحناجر في القلوب حناجر الكاظم الغيظ ما لظالم حميم وما حميم يطاع يعلم خائنة الأعين وما تخفي الصدور والله يقضي بالحق. As it says in the first part of the ayah, Allah Ta'ala says in his book, and he says on the day in which he says you'll find that the hearts of course will be coming up to like the throats out of fear and fright and horror, in which people will see on the day of resurrection. And the survival of that relies on your righteous actions, what you're doing here in this dunya. How you treat people, how you act towards people, how you treat them kindly. Know that when you treat a person kindly, and know when you smile in a person's face, and know it's when you treat them with gentleness and kindness, even if it's a non-Muslim, showing them how Islam tells us to display the exemplary character. Know when you do that, it is all preparation for the day of resurrection, because those actions are very vital in your survival as far as a lot of different things that will take place. And the depletion of, or the weakness of how you get through those obstacles is based upon how much evil you've done. And like we said, the simplest things you'll find that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned is said, اتقوا النار ولو أن تلقى أخاك بوجه طلق. There's a narration where the Prophet ﷺ said in Sahih Bukhari, which is a righteous action. He says, save yourself from hell. He says, save yourself from hell, even if you was to meet your brother with a smiling face. Not something that's plastic, meaning you showing a genuine kind face to someone, smiling in their face, treating them gently, knowing how to have manners and exemplary character, treating the people kindly, feeding the people. Also likewise, hastening towards performing a salawat, of course, knowing how to talk to people. All this is a part of preparation for the day of resurrection, because all the actions that we're doing, if it's righteous, it will illuminate your light on the day of resurrection, making it what? Even more bigger and brighter. As you'll find in regards, for example, on the crossing over the bridge over hell, also likewise, on the day of resurrection, when it takes place when it becomes black on the day of resurrection, as we know, which comes to Sahih Muslim, where the Prophet ﷺ had clearly said there's going to be a time on the day of resurrection where everything is going to be black. There's not going to be any light. It's just going to be absolute blackness and darkness. And he said that part of the ways that a person will be able to go through that blackness and darkness is based upon the light that Allah gives everyone from the mu'mineen, from the believers. And that light and that radiance of it, or the illumination of that light, is based upon the righteous actions that you put forth in this dunya. That light, of course, the wudu, of course, that the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned about the wudu, how those parts, and likewise, the righteous actions will be the very vital thing in which will be the reason why you'll pass all these different obstacles. And likewise, your aqeedah and your iman. As we know, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنظُرُ إِلَىٰ صُورِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ وَلَكِنْ إِلَىٰ قُلُوبِكُمْ وَأَعْمَالِكُمْ. As we know, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned and said, that he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't look to your color and He doesn't look to your shapes. لَا يَنظُرُ إِلَىٰ صُورِكُمْ وَأَلْوَانِكُمْ. He doesn't look to your shapes and your colors. And in this is a refutation of those who like to always focus on black and person. We need to rectify the black and the white and all these other different things about what's pertaining to racism and looking down upon someone based upon color or skin color or skin or hair texture. And you'll now notice that some of our brothers and sisters are plagued with this, looking down upon people based upon their shape, their size, their color, their hair texture. That's black. Ew, I can't stand a person that's got black, dark skin. Ooh, I just can't stand it. It's repulsive. I'm not attracted to a person like that. Or I'm not attracted to a person that's extremely white. It looks like their veins. You can see through the veins through their skin. And I'm just repulsive. I can't take it. Allah Ta'ala tells us to remove all this type of nonsense from our belief system, to cleanse ourselves of this type of nonsense, because it destroys and it breaks down the brotherhood and how having respect for one another. Where Allah Ta'ala clearly removed this type of belief, where He said, "Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum." Verily, the most honorable of you with Allah is those who fear Him the most. So it has nothing to do with color, shapes, or size. However, what it has to do with is what Allah Ta'ala said upon the tongue of the Prophet ﷺ, where He said, alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah looks to your what? He looks to your hearts, meaning your belief system, and what you have done to learn aqeedah salafiyah and correct iman, and Allah looks to your actions. He says Allah looks to your qulubikum wa a'malikum. He looks to your hearts and He looks to your actions. He looks to what you do. So this is the mi'yar, or this is the matters in which we take place, which are very important and very vital, in which we have to rectify. Rectify our belief system, and we rectify our righteous actions, which is the fruits of purifying and laying down the groundwork, which is our iman and our correct belief in our aqeedah salafiyah. So in regards to this, we'll go to the next point, in which the great Imam that he mentions, it says, what does he say if you look in your books? He says, الثالثة, before we go to that point, there's a couple of things I wanted to mention about actions, of course, again. I wanted to mention a couple of more points, and then we'll move on to the next point. As we know, also likewise, our actions and our faith will be questioned and addressed. Then, also likewise, Allah Ta'ala is going to ask us, what do we do as far as implementing what we know? As we know, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, likewise, where he said also, لا تزال قدم العبد يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن أربع. He said that the slave, that his reckoning will continue on the day of resurrection, won't stop until he will be stopped and asked about 4 things. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned and said, عن. He says, عن عمره فيما أبلاه. عن عمره فيما أبلاه. His age, meaning his time, how he spent it. And I think that a lot of us, if we was to really ponder on this hadith, a lot of us won't be wasting our time with a lot of nonsense that we waste our time in. He says Allah is going to ask us about our age, meaning our time. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do with it? As we know, as the poet used to say in his poetry, he says, إن الوقت أنفس ما عليت بحفظه وأراه أسهل ما عليك يضيع. As he said in his poetry. He says, الوقت أنفس ما عليت بحفظه وأراه أسهل ما عليك يضيع. He said in his poetry, I think it's Hamzah, from what I remember. But anyway, it says, the poet says in his poetry, he says, Time, he says, is the most precious of what you should be caring about. That you should be caring about protecting. He says, Al-waqt, time, anfasa ma anayta bihifdhih. He says it's the most valuable of what you should be putting forth for protecting. He says, وَأُرَاهُ أَسْهَلَ مَا عَلَيْكَ يُضِيعُ. He says, and I see it to be the most easiest of what you wasted. And I see it to be the most easiest of what you waste. So time, ya ma'ashal ikhwa wal akhawat, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ said Allah is going to ask us about this. Our time, how we spent it. He says, عَنْ عُمْرِهِ فِيمَا أَبْلَى. About our age and our age, what do we do? What do we do spending it? How do we take, what do we indulge in regards to that? Towards to our age and our life and our time. He says, وَعَنْ شَبَابِهِ فِيمَا أَبْلَى. It's another narration where it says, about one's youth, how did he use it? His youth. عَنْ شَبَابِهِ فِيمَا أَفْنَى. And because we know a youth or being young is the most greatest of time where you're the most energetic, you're not sick as much. Well, these days in times how people so much sin and so much filth. So the young people these days are almost like elderly people. Anyway, but the people these days truly took advantage of their youth, and we know that youth is the time where a person has that diligence. He's vibrant, he's active. He's not as sick as much, of course. He's able to do a lot of different things that he doesn't usually do when he's elderly. He's able to walk, he has his health. And we know that is the test of when a person has his desires, it reaches its peak or reaches its apex to its highest extent. So that time is a precious time, in which the Prophet ﷺ informed that time, likewise, Allah is going to hold us accountable. He's going to ask us about our what? Our youth. عن شبابه فيما أفناه وعن ماله من أين اكتسبه وفيما أنفقه وعن علمه ماذا عمل فيه. Then he says in the last part of the narration where he says about our wealth and our money. Allah is going to ask us about that. Where we acquired it and what we spent it on. Where we acquired it and where we spent it on. من أين اكتسبه وفيما أنفقه. Now listen to the last part. وعن علمه ماذا عمل فيه. And about our knowledge, what do we do as far as implementing it? About our knowledge, what do we do as far as acting upon it? So knowledge is very important. Actions is very important. And is what the fruits of our true faith will manifest. Like we talked about a couple of minutes ago, if Iman is truly settled in one's heart, and you truly have faith, and your faith is sound, and is correct, and is upright, that will manifest in its actions. He said that will manifest in your actions. It will manifest in your takhashur', it will manifest in your akhlaq, in your behavior, and how one acts and how he conducts. It will manifest in all those affairs. In everything, in his daily life. And also likewise, as we know, the poet used to say in his poetry also likewise, which is tremendous, he says, وَعَالِمٌ بِعِلْمِهِ لَمْ يَعْمَلًا مُعَذَّبٌ مِنْ قَبْلِ عُبَّادِ الْوَثَنِ. As it says in the poetry. He says, وَعَالِمٌ بِعِلْمِهِ لَمْ يَعْمَلًا مُعَذَّبٌ مِنْ قَبْلِ عُبَّادِ الْوَثَنِ. That he says in the poetry, he says, a the person who has knowledge, or alim, or a scholar, or even a person that has ilm, that does not work by his knowledge, listen to this part of the poetry. He will be punished on the day of resurrection before the worshippers of idols. He will be punished on the day of resurrection before the ubbad al-wathan, before the worshippers of idols. So Allah for practicing and doing righteous actions and applying what we know. You'll find that some of the Salaf, and from what I recall now, Sufyan al-Thawri, he used to say that if I learn a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he says I would try to apply it even if it's once in my life. Like if I read a hadith that's authentic and I see it He says, I try to apply it even if it was once in my life. So he says, out of fear that I will what? That I will not fall and be amongst those on the day of resurrection that will be called out and will be said, what did you do with that knowledge that you acquired? Did you apply it? Did you apply it? Or what you will find that some of the Salaf used to what? Mention this regard. And I find, excuse me, there's a particular athar I was trying to find. Just excuse me for 1 second. Oh man, subhanAllah. SubhanAllah. Oh man, I can't find it. Yeah, I can't find it right now. Yeah, I cannot find that other right now. I had it written down, but I can't find it. But anyway, so in regards to, like we said, righteous action, I think we'll suffice by this because I don't want to make it too long. But that's a point to show that Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah, that he wrote this down in order to show the importance of righteous actions and how very, very vital they are, as they will be your confirmation on the day of resurrection when your contract of La ilaha illallah, where your testimony is laid out. Because when we say the shahada, the testification that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, and that Muhammad is the message of Allah, we took on a contract. And that which shows truly that you have carried out and actualized that contract is your actions. Your actions will confirm it. Your actions will confirm what you took as a covenant and took as a contract with Allah Ta'ala on the day of resurrection by those righteous actions and the implementation of the religion. That's going to confirm truly what was in the heart. We also talked about from the benefits of the actions, what will come as a result of it, which is of plenty of benefits, as we talked about. From them is a good life in this dunya, as we said last week, or a week of some of the lessons that has preceded and what we also took. From those is the righteous actions will bring about a good life in this world. Because we talked about the ayah, as we said from a couple of weeks ago, where Allah Ta'ala says in His book, "Man amila salihan min dhakarin aw untha wa huwa mu'min, falanuhyiyannahu hayatan tayyiba, wa lanajziyannahum ajrahum bi ahsani ma kanu ya'malun." To the end of the ayah. Where Allah Ta'ala says, whoever does righteous actions from male and female and they have iman, He says we will give them a good life. And we talked about from that good life, in the meaning of the tafsir, in light of what the salaf, meaning the sahaba, what they mentioned, from that is al-qana'ah, is having contentment, is a good life. As it mentions in the tafsir, from a good life is, as it mentioned, al-qana'ah, contentment. Contentment. Allah Ta'ala will put contentment in your heart. That's one of the meanings of the ayah, which is a very, very great importance in which all of us strive to having contentment in this life. Whether a person is rich or whether he's in a state of poverty, he will always be happy because he knows that Allah Ta'ala will put in something in his heart that a lot of people are deprived of, which is contentment. Also, righteous actions brings about love of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for the slave. And also likewise, righteous actions brings forth casting of love for that person in the hearts of the people on the earth. The people will love him. Meaning from the awliya of Allah, from those who are the friends of Allah. Not the friends of shaitan, of course. It's something different. But we'll talk about bi'idhnillah, that how righteous actions also allows the creation from the awliya of Allah, from those who are the friends and the friends of Allah, from Ahlul Sunnah and people of Tawheed, that they love will be cast in their hearts for him. The people will love him. And also likewise, righteous actions, as a result of it, when death comes, what will come as a result of it is the malaika, the angels will come in a form which it will make a person very happy. In which we would find that some of the athar of the salaf and some of the circumstances, which is very frightful and also very very, very happy. Also, likewise, when you see some of the athar of some of the people who died in a wretched state, who died in a state where they was upon bid'ah, or they were upon some type of wicked belief, or they were a very, very wretched individual, how at the time of their death, it seems as if they seen something that was very horrific coming at them. You'll find that some of the salaf that had seen individuals that look as, when they were dying, that blackness and that which is of horror or fright were on their faces at the time of when they were on their deathbed. And then you'll find the opposite of people who died upon the sunnah and died upon correct aqeedah, correct faith, and died in the state where they were tested, of course, where they stood firm upon the sunnah and they stood firm upon faith, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted them that husn al-khatima, that good ending, in which all of us hopes that we'll die upon, where Allah gives us a good ending in which we die upon it. You'll find that in a particular state, those people who did righteous actions and had aqeedah salafiyah and was truly implementing it, that at the time of their death you seen them smiling, even though they were dead. And this has happened to even one of my friends who died, rahimahullah, about a couple of months ago, Abu Umar Farouk in the UK. As I heard that, he says when he was on his deathbed, he was smiling. And when he was smiling on his deathbed, rahimahullah. That he says when the brothers were washing his body, he says everybody in the room see him smiling. And that's the smile of which will come as a result of holding on firm and clinging to Islam, clinging to Salafiyah, clinging to the Sunnah, and clinging also likewise to righteous actions. It will bring forth this good ending, bi'idhnillah jalla wa az. طيب. Also likewise, what righteous actions bring is also likewise the good life in the grave. The good life in the grave likewise. This is what righteous actions, and amongst the other different benefits that we mentioned in this regard, of the importance of righteous actions and the implementation of the religion, bi'idhnillah jalla wa az, and I think we'll suffice with this point. There's a lot more that I wanted to cover, but alhamdulillah, we covered a lot of those points in the khutbah a couple of weeks ago, and likewise in some of the other classes. As we move to the next point, as the third point is, it says ad-da'watu ilayh, that the other point, is everyone looking in their books? If you look in their books, it also has another point where it says calling to it. After now one has attained the proper belief, and also likewise he's attained what, everyone? He's attained the ma'rifah, the knowledge of Allah, the knowledge of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the knowledge of the deen of the religion of Islam with proofs and evidences. And now he moves on to the next point, like we said, which is implementation and working upon, or working in accordance to that knowledge and that correct faith that he has. Then he moved on to another point, which is now calling to it. Calling to the religion of Islam. Once a person has attained knowledge, once he's now is implemented, and once he's reached a level where he has the ability, then one to what? Call to it. So you'll find that from the Salaf and from the great Athar, in which we'll find that the Salaf of the past, from the great Imam Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad, Mu'akkidan, where he mentioned and said about this point about calling to this truth, ad-da'watu ilayh, where he said, كما يجلي ذلك الفضيل بن عياض مؤكدا ترابطها وفضلها وفضل من قامت به هذه الثلاث، فيقول عالم عامل معلم يدعى كبير في ملكوت السماوات. That the great Imam Al-Fudayl ibn Iyad, he mentioned and said, emphasizing the importance of calling to it, calling to this knowledge and spreading it and circulating it amongst the people. When he said in this tremendous author, he said, connecting everything together and the virtues of this matter and the virtue of the one who carries it out. He says, عَالِمٌ وَعَامِلٌ مُعَلِّمٌ, the one who has knowledge, the one who does actions, and the one who teaches it, meaning spreading it to the people. He says he will be called the one who's tremendous and prominent in the realm or the kingdom of the heavens. He says about this matter, about this person who calls, in which Ibn al-Qayyim had mentioned, it said in Zad al-Mu'ad fi Hadi Khayl al-Ibad, which is from the tremendous treatise of Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, that Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned also likewise giving and agreeing with what Fudayl ibn Iyad mentions, it says. He says, فَإِنَّ السَّلَفِ مُجْمِعُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنَّ الْعَالِمِ لَا يَسْتَحِقْ أن يسمى ربانيا حتى يعرف الحق ويعمل به ويعلمه فمن علم وعمل وعلم فذاك يدعى عظيما في ملكوت السماوات. That Ibn al-Qayyim that he mentions, it says, a Salaf, he says they have a consensus that al-alim, the one who's a scholar or the one who has knowledge, does not deserve to be called Rabbani. What's the meaning of Rabbani? Rabbani is like a cultivator. He's the one that cultivates the people from the basic level or the basic affairs, and then he cultivates them until they're able to teach them those major ones. So he starts off with the basics, the mere essentials, or the basic bare essentials, what is easy for the people. Then he grooms them. He grooms them and he works to raise them and cultivate them. And after a time, when he sees they're ready for the major affairs, he starts to teach them those. That is what you call Rabbani, a person who's a Rabbani. He said that a person doesn't deserve to be called Rabbani until he knows the truth and he applies it and he teaches it. So then Ibn al-Qayyim goes on to mention, فَمَنْ عَلِمَ وَعَمِلَ وَعَلَّمْ, for the person who has knowledge, he's implemented it, he acts upon it, and he teaches it. He said that person will be considered and called tremendous in the realms of the heavens. For all of this is in regards to calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and calling to the ilm, or calling to this da'wah, in which a lot of us, like we said, a lot of us, even myself, come up short in trying to spread and call the people and call the non-Muslims to this truth, and which is something that we have to work on and make ourselves better in. As far as, and if we're not able to pass out flyers, we have authentic flyers to pass out, and a lot of our time is limited, then at least we can set a good example for the non-Muslims. At least we can set a good example. The least we could do is set a good example for the non-Muslims, as we need to stop bickering in the streets with our brothers and sisters in front of the masjid. Or, for example, some of our situations that have happened, I've heard where a brother or a husband and a wife are fighting out in the street. Sister was wearing niqab with an overgarment on. You have a brother with his thobe on, and the non-Muslims are looking at two Muslims fighting each other, a husband and a wife. And you got to think, how would their mindset be if they was to see something like that? I don't want to be like them. They crazy. They act like they don't have any sense. How are you going to have a woman fully covered with niqab on, have a brother outside with a thobe on, and they're both fighting each other? First thing they're going to say, I don't want to be like you. I'm good. If that's how a Muslim man treats his wife, and then the men would say, that's how a Muslim woman speaks to her husband, then I'm good. We know that the Prophet ﷺ has said in some of the narrations, where he said, Inna lafikum la munaffirin. Inna fikum la munaffirin. Inna fikum la munaffirin. Where he said, verily, if there are amongst you people who are fleeing the people away from the religion. Verily, there are amongst you people who are fleeing the people away from the religion. Setting a bad example, in which we'll give numerous examples of. And from them, as some of our brothers and sisters do, and I don't understand why they do this, is telling a non-Muslim your personal issues and your personal problems. I don't understand why the Muslims do this. Why would you go to a non-Muslim who probably had a boyfriend for 8 years, had a baby out of wedlock, and you telling them about your personal issues in your marriage? How's she going to give you advice? Or how is he going to give you advice? Then on top of that, likewise, telling your mother, oh, mom, he didn't do this. He's not doing this. He didn't do this right. Telling your non-Muslim mom. Telling your non-Muslim mother, oh, mom, he didn't do this. Mom, he smacked me. Mom, he did this. Mom. And your mother's just looking like, that's how a Muslim man treats a Muslim woman? I'm good. I'm not taking money. I'm Muslim. I think I'm good. I'll stay by myself. I'm good. I'm not going to take shahada. That's how a Muslim man treats a Muslim woman. You telling them this is a form of da'wah. It's a form of da'wah. And it will make them reluctant to what? Embrace the truth. If you tell them your problems, and then, as we know, a lot of our sisters, some of them get over it. Their husband, what they did. They'll forgive them, have a good night, have a softness in their chest. All right, I'll forgive him. Khalas, we'll resume our marriage. But the mother's still mad. The mother still got something in her chest. Oh, you got over it, but I didn't yet. Then on top of that, you're telling your non-Muslim friends, which you're not supposed to really even be hanging around in the first place. Telling them. And then they look at you and you laughing and, oh, you back with him? What about all the problems you told us you had with him last week? Oh, it's all gone now? And they're laughing. Now you're the laughing stock. That's because you never should have told them in the first place. You should have never told them. It's bad dawah. Bad dawah. For a person not supposed to go to the non-Muslims, conveying to them, just like also brothers, I notice. Brothers do the same thing. They'll do the same thing, go to a non-Muslim, telling them their problems, telling them what happened and occurred between or transpired in their household, telling them their business, telling them something that happened. Then, like we said, what will happen is maybe the husband might get over it. He'll forgive his wife. Have a soft heart for her. Okay, she came up short. Khalas, I'll forgive her. We'll resume our marriage. I still love her at the end of the day. But then you have the friends, the non-Muslim friends like, you just told me, you just aired her out of all this stuff she did. Now you back with her again? And they looking and laughing like, oh, okay, that's how you guys get down, huh? That's the reason why, like we said, if one is not able to pass and disseminate flyers and give dawah and clarify and enlighten, because one knows that he has limitations as far as in how to convey the message properly, he doesn't have the ability where he's not able to express himself, the least what we can do is to set a good example for the non-Muslims. That's the least we could do. Because we know that a lot of the dawah had spread it in a lot of areas around the world based upon good treatment of the people. You'll find that a lot of different areas in Islam when it spread in a lot of different countries was spread based upon because the non-Muslims used to see how just and the good treatment and exemplary character that the Muslims used to display to them and how just they were. Until they were so impressed they wanted to be like them. That's how Islam, one of the ways how Islam got spread. One of the ways. They used to see that the good treatment of the families, the good treatment of the women, the good treatment of the women to the husband, the good treatment of the husband to the women, seeing that they love family structure, all these different affairs they used to look at and they was impressed. Until the point they wanted to know, what is this that you have that makes you act like this? What is this type of calling that you're upon that makes you show this type of this good etiquette, this good treatment of people, and this good dealings and this just with people, and this type of behavior and this conduct that is upright? What is it? So they're curious and they find out. Then as a result of it, they become Muslim. But when they see how harsh we are, how hard we are, and how callous we are with each other, and then they look at you and then they talk about how you tell them they're our problems. You go to your mother, you go to your non-Muslim friends, so-called, and they're not supposed to be your friends. They're somebody you probably be dealing from afar. But you go to them now, you go out with them, and you start airing out your problems all to them. My husband did this to me, he did this to me, he did this to me, he did this to me. Then they're going to be looking like, you expect me to become Muslim like you? And you having just as much problems as I am. So that's what we're saying, ya ma'ashal ikhwa al-akhawat. Learn how to observe patience. Learn how to control your mouth, especially at a time when you're emotional, which we'll speak about too. And men need to do this too. When you're feeling you're in a state of you're emotional, and you're feeling that you very in your feelings, that's the time when you need to keep your mouth shut. Because every time you're into your emotions, more than likely you're going to either make a move that's out of emotions and it's not out of a good judgment that one does when his mind is straight. He's going to make a hasty move. Or you're going to say something that you're going to regret. Or, like we said, more than likely you're going to convey it to somebody who you should not be conveying it to. When you're emotional, go to someone from the Muslims that maybe you trust that will guard your secret. Someone you can trust, one person, one individual, go to them. Speak to them and speak your piece. Tell them, because you know that they're a person that keeps their mouth shut, which is real far and few in these days and times. But if you found somebody like that and Allah has given you a person that will listen and not spread your secret, of course, then all by means, then vent. Because sometimes we do need to vent these days of what we feel. Certain things that have happened and transpires in our lives, sometimes, no doubt, a person needs to vent. But the problem is who you vent to. Vent to somebody who's trustworthy, who you know that's Muslim, Salafi, has good conduct, and guards your secrets. Then say that something happened, this has happened, I'm just venting to you because I have something going on in my life, and I wanted to just talk to you about it. I don't want to tell my mom. I don't want to tell my mother. I don't want to tell my family, because at the end of the day, I know he or she is a good person, but they fell into this mistake, and I just wanted to vent a little bit. But all in all, I know that they're a good person, but they did this to me, such and such and such, to the end of it. But I don't want to tell my mother, and I don't want to tell my sister, I don't want to tell my brother, I don't want to tell my family, because what will come as a result of it, like we said, especially if they Muslim, you might get over it, but they didn't. They still will be mad at your husband. Then you wonder why can't I bring my family to love my husband? You should have kept your mouth shut. So that's what we said, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa. Good da'wah is what you display in your behavior. Good da'wah, like we said, disseminating knowledge, giving knowledge to the people, disseminating it by these pamphlets, inshallah, we'll try to also make up soon, and going out in the streets and disseminating to the people and calling the people. And like we said, if one does not have the ability, then at least set a good example. And I think all of us have that ability. All of us have the ability, inshallah, to set a good example. How's a good example you're going to set and you go into parties with your non-Muslim friends drinking with them? How's it you're going to have setting a good example when you going out to clubs and you sitting with them? How's a good example you're going to set when you dressing like them, you're going outside and you want to be just like them and be talking like them and speaking like them and all these different matters? That's not setting a good example. Rather, that's called the non-Muslims are looking at you like you're weak because you want to be like us. So all of this, like we said, is part of giving da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is very important in these days. It will stop here, inshallah, for a couple of minutes and we'll resume and start the next class. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.